Okay, Year 12, we're just going to do some quick sketches. I've picked a photograph taken of this Welsh landscapes around the Neath area, and first of all we're going to just try out some, try out some charcoal. Okay, so first of all, I get a little bit of charcoal and I'm going to lightly sketch out the outline of the landscape. Press in lightly and using almost a dotted line, so if I go wrong, it's easy to correct. Work quickly. I only want these sketches to take around 10 minutes each. So dot out the area you're going to use, put as much detail as you can. With the charcoal, you'd be surprised how much detail you can get, but it can occasionally give you a big clumsy line when you didn't expect it. So you have got to respect the material a little bit and just take your time with it and learn with it. But don't worry, if you make a mistake, what's quite good is you can just draw over the top of it. And in fact, the artist we're looking at the moment, Peter Prendergast, he works very heavily into his work. And when we are going to work with charcoal together, I will be making you overwork a piece of art. So you'll do it and I'll probably turn around to you, even though you think it's finished, I'll say, add more. Because when you look at his work, he works into it and into it and into it, so it always gets blacker and blacker and blacker. Obviously, in a 10-minute sketch, you're not likely to do that, but there will be areas which will get darker and darker, and you will work over them. Okay, so just look at the detail in the picture, looking for the tones. So some areas are going to be sort of a light grey and some are going to be dark. At the moment I'm just blocking in little bits of detail, but I've looked at the back bit there and where it gets sort of slightly lighter as it comes out, as it comes forward, blocking in areas to kind of give more detail, more description. I pick up the trees there, a few sort of markings I can see from rock slides and trees I can see in the hills in the background. Now add in trees, bushes, the mid-ground. Add your tone and then start adding texture. This is often about mark making when you're working with charcoal. So you have a certain amount of tone you can use, but also it's how you dab it on the paper, whether it's little dots, little scratch marks, or whether it's a smooth side-to-side action. At this point I've broken my charcoal in two, so I use the side of it in a thinner sort of spread, so I can shade in areas by using the side of the charcoal rather than the tip of it. Another recommendation is when you're drawing with it, use the edge of it rather than the block flat bit, unless you want to do a real big block thick line with it. But I like to try and work with it the thinnest edge, especially when I'm doing things like the fence there. Okay, just working it into details. I think you get the idea though. It is like drawing with a pencil, but the shading is a little bit different. Your mark making is a bit different, and also you'll have to hold it in a different way, because if especially left-handed people tend to start with, if you hold it the wrong way, you'll just smudge it with your arm. Okay, coming to the end of this picture now. I think I'm going to leave it, and yeah, I've been about 10 minutes. So good luck with your charcoal drawing. If you haven't got charcoal, use a dark pencil and just overwork into it, scribble over it, shade over it. Okay, looking good. Now we're going to look at ink. Okay, if you've got black ink, brilliant. But if you haven't got any ink at all, just get some food colouring. I'm going to use blue food colouring here just to prove the point. I'm doing it in one tone, sort of monotone picture, but you could try and colour it in with a range of food colours if you want. But for now, I just want to get the sort of tonal picture done. So I'm using blue ink, very much like the charcoal. I'm lightly drawing out the landscape, drawing in the details that I can see, and just giving myself a good idea of the outline of the picture and where I'm going to add the detail. So let's just watch me work into it now. Gradually I'm going to start adding bits of detail. A little wall I can see here on the bank, some dark shadowy areas. I'm just blocking these in. A tree I can see at the side of the hill. Add these details in, but in a moment you'll see I'll have to wash over all these with a light wash to give some tone to it. And a lot of the detail I've done is almost lost, but I'll work back into it. It's almost like I'm either going to see when I put a wash over it, or it's like a muscle memory. I knew I painted something there and I want to work back over it. kind of remind myself all the time the detail I want to work into. So still working with the thin brush, but now I'm changing from a slightly thick brush to put these washes on. See, I'm blocking in that area. Some of the detail goes, but there's a little indication of it still there. Started off darker there, but I've lightened it off just because I want this hill to kind of have a bit more prominence. So again, adding water to wash in lighter tones so I can get this different textures and tones on the picture. Now just adding slight mid-tones to it to give it a bit more depth and richness. Obviously, the less water you put with it, the darker it is, so just adding almost pure ink here to get some of these tree effects here, because the silhouettes of them going up the hill. Thin lines of the fence, slightly odd angle of the fence posts. Just working back in, adding this detail that I've kind of lost before, looking to darken the bank there as it sort of the sheer drop of it on the edge. I've left it for a little while now to dry because I was finding the wetness of it was meaning that it was just blending out and losing it. So I've let it dry for 10 minutes, come back to it. As you can see, the ink's having a more prominent effect now, and I can work into details of it all over. If you haven't guessed already, this film is sped up, but each one of these is taking about 10 minutes to do. Okay, and I'm just adding the detail there, and I'm having a bit of fun now. This is where I started to enjoy the work. I've done all the hard work of blocking it in. Now I can look for the little details to give it a kind of real feeling of a landscape. What I've done there is just wetting the background with water and then adding slight tints of colour to it to give it a little bit of depth in the background, but not too much. And well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I hope you enjoyed doing it. Well, we've used two separate medias here, charcoal and dye, but you could mix them up, mix them together. Anyway, good luck.